Hello everyone, my name is LaPrecious and welcome to my channel, Let's Talk with LaPrecious. So today I will be doing a movie review on Crazy Rich Asians. So over the weekend I decided to see the movie Crazy Rich Asians, and on a scale of 1 to 10 I give it a 10. I give the movie a 10 because the acting was good, the scenery was good, it all flowed, it all made sense, and it was a complete storyline. The only complaint that I had was that it was a little lengthy. I feel like once it got to the middle and to the end, some of the scenes could have been cut out to make the story a little shorter and the movie a little shorter, so it would all just come to full circle. But other than that, the movie was pretty good. Now, before I saw the movie, I thought it was going to be a slapstick humor movie. Like, for example, don't go, don't be a menace to society while drinking your 40 in the hood. You know that movie where Marlon Wayans and Sean Wayans, they pretty much did a movie making fun of like all, well, it was a parody pretty much. They were parodying all the black hood movies in the 90s, and they all summed it up in that one movie. Well, I thought that Crazy Rich Asians was going to do the same thing, except it was going to be, pretty much a parody of how rich Asian people are. Like the things rich Asian people say, the things that rich cousins say from Singapore or from China and whatnot. But when I was watching BBC World News, and I believe it was on either Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was on Wednesday, which was August the 15th, the day that it came out. And they decided to do a little background history on the movie. So, based off of watching that, I learned that the movie is a romance movie. The movie centers on the relationship between Rachel Chu and Nick Young. Nick Young comes from a very wealthy Chinese Singaporean family, and Rachel Chu comes from a poor Chinese family where when I saw the movie, to make a long story short, she was born in New York to a Chinese mother and father, but her mother ended up being single because her relationship with Rachel Chu's father didn't work out and blah, blah, blah. And so she pretty much had to raise her on her own to struggle. And Rachel Chu, she went to school, she went to college, and I believe in the movie she was either a law teacher or a chemistry teacher. I just remember that she taught something. And Nick Young, he came from a rich Chinese Singaporean family, where in the beginning of the movie, and this is based off of what I saw at the movie and not the BBC World News snippet, where the movie starts out with Nick Young and another girl who I believe was his sister and his mom as a child coming into a hotel in England. And it was back in 1995. And it was kind of funny as how they were treated because they were a Chinese family. And I'm not really sure how Asians were treated in England at the time in the 90s. But when they came into the hotel and, there were only white people working there, they were treated like black people used to get treated here in the United States when we would come into nice establishments or wealthy establishments or clean establishments, and the white people at the counter will be wondering if we're lost or if we're looking for somebody, or we may be out of our minds and thought that, well, we could go here because this is a nice place or whatever. And, to them, since we're a person of color or black, we have no clue about how to live our lives because we're supposed to live dirty and down and out and let white people live good and in a clean world. And so I thought that was interesting when we saw that with Nick Young's family in the beginning, because when they came into the hotel, she was trying to see how her husband had made reservations or whatnot, and the man was acting as if she was confused or she may have had the wrong hotel or whatever. And then you know how it is when you're a person of color and coming to a racist white establishment, they want to get the manager, make it seem bigger than what it is, and so that's what he did. And then when the owner of the hotel had came out to the side, he greeted his mom and kissed her and everything. And the people at the front desk were looking in bewilderment. And the man said that her husband, who was Nick Young's father, actually was buying the hotel. And so, they went ahead and went on, and the two, white men at the counter, they were dumbfounded. And I found that to be interesting because I think it's sad that in the society that we live in, and I'm talking about the American society, that we are a country that's made up of so many people of color where we've dealt with the same discriminatory backgrounds, blacks and whites. when black people during the Jim Crow era and even before Jim Crow couldn't walk into white establishments, whether they be restaurants, hotels, or bathrooms, or even beaches, and be treated like human beings. And it's interesting to see that even Chinese people were treated that way, and Hispanic people have been treated that way. But the thing that's sad is that in the United States, as people of color, we don't even see each other as equal. And we don't even see, hey, I'm just like you, you're just like me. We're both a person of color. We've gone through the same discriminatory backgrounds and the same struggles and whatever. But sad to say that within, the realm of people of color, with different communities, we have outside biases that we exert on other people of color as well as internal biases. And so that's why we deal with what we deal with now. But moving along to the background part of the movie that they were talking about in Crazy Rich Asians, they did talk about that this was the first time they've ever had a major film have an all Asian cast that was, talking about, a love story, and it talked about, the fame and fortune, of Asian people. And another thing that I did find interesting about Crazy Rich Asians was that this was, and after I saw the movie, the concept I got from it was the Asian version of Jumping the Broom. The one with Laz Alonso and Loretta Devine in it. And I'm sure that a lot of Asian people enjoy seeing this movie because it shows the modern perspective of marriage. Because if anybody out there who is Asian or knows of the Asian culture, that in a lot of Asian countries, there back in the day, love marriages were rare. And what I mean by love marriage is that the children or people chose who they married instead of letting their friends or family members pick who they married. And in some communities and in some cultures, your wife or your husband is picked the day that you're born, and they're usually the son or the daughter of your family's friends or whatnot, or when you turn 18 or when you go to college or whatnot, they put your picture in the paper and a man picks you out and comes by and examines you and sees what kind of family you live in and gives a dowry, the whole 9 yards. And so that was one interesting aspect of it. But there was a complaint that some people did have with the movie because the man who played Nick Young, happened to be half white and half Asian. Of course, whenever there's a mixed person playing a person of color, people always want to size them up and say, well, they're not black enough, they're not Hispanic enough, they're not Asian enough because they're not fully black or fully Hispanic or fully Asian. So that was one of the complaints that was in there. But when I saw the movie, I mean, to me, he looked like an Asian man. He played the character well, and he fit the entire concept of the movie. But whenever there's any type of movie that's centered around race and culture and a concept within a culture, somebody always got a complaint, even if it's good and it represents the culture well. Somebody always got something to say. And moving along from his character, well, not his character, but the actor not being Asian enough, and the concept of, love marriage versus an arranged marriage. There was also another concern that was spoken about with the movie was that there weren't enough people of color shown in the movie. And what I mean by people of color, Asian people are people of color, but what they were talking about are the various skin tones of the Singaporean people. Now, anybody who knows of Singapore, number one, is like the second Dubai, because Singapore is a very wealthy country, very advanced in technology and business, and is very ethnically diverse. And the reason why I say it's the Dubai number two, why it pertains to the movie, is because Nick Young, the character, came from a wealthy Chinese family that eventually moved to Singapore and brought their wealth and founded their family. Well, not founded, but they started to cultivate their family there in Singapore. And going back to what I was saying about Singapore being the second Dubai is because everything that Dubai is now with the advanced technology, the wealth, and the diversity, that's what Singapore has. And some people were saying that there wasn't enough diversity shown in the movie of the Singaporean people because Singapore is made up mostly of Malay people, Chinese people, Indian people, and I'm sure Americans as well, because whenever there's a super wealthy country anywhere in the world where technology is advanced, business is advanced, there's an abundant amount of wealth laying around, you're going to find Americans there because we see it with Dubai. We probably will see it with Singapore, and we've seen it with Japan as well. So that's what a lot of people were saying. And unfortunately, within the Asian community, with any community of color, you have, those internal biases because it's a known fact, just like in the Black community and in the Latino community, that lighter skin is better. And I will say that when I did see the movie, Crazy Rich Asians, the whole cast were white Asian people. I did not see not one person of a brown complexion, light brown complexion, or even a light brown complexion, unless it was Indians. And I hate to say it, but they had the Indians in like a subservient role where they were playing the guards at the gate that let Nick Young and Rachel Chu, who was his fiance, into the house where they were having the bachelorette party, because the movie at first, it tells the story of Nick Young's family, and then it moves along to Rachel Chu, and then the movie mainly centers around Nick Young's cousin getting married in Singapore. And so, throughout the whole movie, they pretty much, explore the preparations of the wedding. Nick Young talks to Rachel Chu about his different cousins and their different personalities and what they all have to offer. And that's another thing that I found really interesting about the movie, is that we got to see different people of different personalities and caricatures and things like that. And I wish that a lot of people of color would come out and see each other's work like this, because I feel like when we go and watch movies that are outside of our cultural norm of movies or social norm of movies, we get a better perspective and we learn that everybody is not as different as we think they are. Because he had snobby cousins, he had laid back cousins, he had cousins that thought they had it all. He had cousins that were, they were just a whole influx of different types of personalities and people. And so I think they did a really good job with this movie. I think they did an excellent job with the character picks. And I think they did a really good job of bringing the whole concept of, it's not all about who you are or what you are, but the main thing is that you two love each other. But let's see, there are a few other things that I do want to talk about that I saw in the movie other than love marriages. Another thing that I saw was, you do see the elitism that goes on within the Asian community, because I didn't know that it was bad with Chinese people as it was with Indians, because anybody who's Indian or knows of the Indian culture, they had the caste system. In India, the caste system was a class system where you had the priest at the top, or the Brahmas, and then you had the teachers after them, and then you had the janitors and whatnot, and then after them, you had the untouchables. And they were like the poor people who handled trash, dead bodies, and dead animals. And they were pretty much seen as nobodies. I think that since the 1940s, they outlawed the caste system. But of course, old habits die hard, because when social systems and different isms of discrimination have been embedded into a country's identity and culture for so long, it's really hard to dilute that out. And it really takes a lot of times it takes a bold person or a bold group of people to stand up and say, hey, just because my society says I have to be this way, look this way, talk this way, doesn't mean that I have to do it. I have the choice to either be what they want me to be or what I want to be. And in India, we are seeing that now, because they are having advancements in culture, they're having advancements in music and fashion and religion and all types of things. Now, with the Chinese culture, we saw that here as well, because the issue that Nick Young's mom had with Rachel Chu was that she didn't come from a wealthy family. But one thing that was real messed up about her that she did with Rachel Chu is she actually told Rachel Chu that she came from a not so wealthy family, and Nick Young's father had chose her and loved her despite of it all, and that's how she elevated into the family. Unfortunately, she didn't want Rachel Chu having nothing to do with her son because she made it her business every chance she got that she was never going to be a young, that she wasn't accepted, that they didn't want her there, that in their culture you do what your parents say and not what your heart says. And she made Rachel Chu feel really bad about herself. But one thing that I notice a lot, especially with women, because this is not the only movie that I've seen that in. I've seen this in this movie. I saw it in The Preacher's Son with Christian Keys and Drew Sidora. That was like a BET movie they showed because Christian Keys' character's mom was like that. You know, she was very religious and snooty, and anything that wasn't righteous or holy, she looked down on it and casted it out. But at the end of the movie, when her husband was about to lose his role as a pastor at the church, she told her life story about how she used to be a crack addict and how she slept with so many men. She didn't know who Christian Key's character, whose name was Dante, was. And then she eventually, and it's like, and I've even been treated like this myself, where a woman who in her former life, when she was my age, because I'm 23 years old, and she didn't have a whole lot of money, was staying with her parents, and had to struggle and go through a lot to get to the top spot where she's at. And then you see somebody that you used to look like, that you used to be, trying to get where you're at, and you kick them down the ladder. And I just don't understand this with women, why it's like we scream women empowerment in one breath. And then when we see all these women that we secretly look down on but claim to be helping in the public, we kick them down, throw sand in their eyes, and just don't want to, take in our spot. So I just thought that was just real messed up of the mama to do, because I'm like, how can you sit up here and look down on Rachel Chu for not being everything that you want her to be, and you came from the same struggle background that she did? And that just goes to show you that there is no such thing as a perfect people, perfect culture, anything. Because as a black person and being within the black community and amongst blacks, we say all the time, we see it within our own community where we, won't help each other out, we'll kick each other down, we'll tear each other up, chew each other up, spit each other out. And when you watch the movie Crazy Rich Asians, you see that within the Chinese community and within the Asian community, they do the same thing too. So, like I was saying before, it's really interesting to see an all Asian movie like this that talks about people from different walks of life and different aspects of culture and whatnot. And it's really good to see a love story like this where love is a choice instead of a plan by your family. And not only did I like that about this movie, but as I was watching the previews of this movie, I really like how now there are more movies centered around women empowerment, because Taraji P. Henson has a movie coming out called What Men Want. And then there's another movie coming out about a woman who is fighting for her rights as a woman, where she ends up going to court because I think there might have been a lawsuit brought against her for her being a woman and standing her ground amongst men. And that's something that I really enjoy seeing nowadays, that a lot of the movies are starting to reflect how we are in society, which is a good thing, because I do think that it's a great thing and a wonderful thing that more women are standing up for themselves, more women are speaking out for their rights and what they want and who they want to be and where they want to go. And a lot of us are saying no to this male chauvinistic attitude that has surprisingly to me just seemed to pop up from somewhere, because it's just real strange how a couple of years ago you didn't have men being this pompous and so high and mighty and devious and disrespectful towards women like you do now. So I'm glad that there are more movies centered around women empowerment and women's rights and just representing us for who we really are. And before I go and leave off in this video, I do like the fact that they're showing how culture is starting to change in many different parts of the world, because in the United States, having the choice to marry has always been a choice of ours. But I believe, well, I'm not going to say that I believe, because I don't know every American and what they're thinking, but I think that we as Americans, when we see movies like this, it should make us grateful that we come from the culture that we do and we come from the society that we do, because a lot of cultures, they're new to this. I want to marry him or her because I love her, because a lot of cultures, they're very used to their parents telling them who to marry, waiting until they're married to have sex, waiting until they're married to have kids, and pretty much centering their families on family image or family wealth or family status. And so I think this is a good movie for us as Americans to watch, and I'm sure for Asian Americans as well to watch, so that we can see that, this newfound discovery of self and this newfound love interest is starting to be a catapult around the world. So I hope you all enjoyed this video review, and I hope you all will go out and see Crazy Rich Asians. And I would like for you all to either thumbs up or thumbs down this video and tell me in the comments what you think. Have a good day.